everybody, and welcome to another spoiler review here for Secret Invasion, brought to you by the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! Shannon's been abducted by Skrulls.
Shannon is a Skrull. We always knew it. The dad jokes, that should have been the dead giveaway. Should have been the dead giveaway, but no. He has been abducted. We shall see when we'll get him back. And who knows, judging from how they're offing people on this show, we may never see Shannon McCall again, Michael. It's certainly a possibility.
Well,
but yes,
that would sure be a shame because we would really miss those horrible, horrible jokes.
Wow. There we go. There's the start. Well, anyway, we're here to talk about episode 4 here, Beloved of Secret Invasion, the shortest episode of the series. I am the Outlaw John Rocha. That is Michael Vogel, and we're just going to jump into this thing. Basically, this episode here, picking up where we left off, Gaia, and this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the show, go and watch it, come back and join us. Gaia is alive. She's now got extremists in her. We see that Fury finds out that Rhodes is a Skrull, which everyone pretty much suspected. We have a scene with Rhodes and Priscilla / Varra. Then we have Fury and Priscilla and Varra's relationship explored, and then an attack on the president and the death of Talos to end, or Talos, however you want to say it, to end this particular episode. Michael, as I said, the shortest. Are you all right over there? There's a lot of rumbling around.
Man, there's a lot of microphone, a lot of wardrobe malfunctions happening over here this afternoon. It's been a wild day. It's been a wild day, everybody.
Shortest episode of the series, 32 minutes. Yet, arguably, could have benefited from way more minutes, establishing a little more foundational stuff going on with these relationships. In my opinion, your thoughts overall, episode 4, Beloved Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I think I'll give you the pro and the con of Secret Invasion to me at this point with 2 episodes to go. The pro is some of the best scene work that I've seen in the Marvel Universe, period. You take 2 actors and you put them in a room together. Agreed. And you let them go, and across the board, there's just some great, I mean, there's been great scenes, Talos and Fury on the train, Rhodey and Fury in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And this episode, which I would like to call How Fury Got His Groove Back, is you get 2 really great Fury Priscilla scenes, just the 2 of them. You get some nice Rhodey Priscilla stuff. You get Rhodey and Fury. Like, there's just like, you get Talos and Gaia on the bench. Like, when you let 2 really good actors just have a scene and have that happen, that's where Secret Invasion really gets me. I'm like, man, this is some good work.
Yep.
I think, and this is an overall thing with Marvel television, and this, I know that you've said this throughout, like you always feel like we want to dive in more, we need more episodes, we need more time. But I think the real issue is Marvel doesn't know how to do TV, and so a lot of Marvel TV ends up being a movie. And the problem is, a 2-hour movie is fine, and you're like, okay, this was 2 hours, I got what I needed, I got the character development. But a 6-episode series, you really want to get into character stuff, and they kind of do this thing I don't want to say across the board, but with a good portion of Marvel TV series where you have a strong start, your act 1 is great, and then your act 2, they're kind of like, oh, we got all these episodes, and so they end up kind of filling it with stuff, and we get just enough that it leaves us wanting more.
Yeah.
But we're not quite satisfied, and then we wrap it up and we're like, oh, that was a kind of decent ending. Okay, I liked where it ended. But I think that one of the reasons that WandaVision to me is still one of the best Marvel shows, even though it was the first, is because given the nature of the show where each episode was a different era of television, it's forced, the entire writing team was forced to think of it as a TV series where each episode had its own vibe.
Right.
Secret Invasion feels like it would have been a fucking epic ass 2.5-hour Marvel movie, but then at 6 hours, they've stretched it out, and some characters like Olivia Colman, I miss and I want to see more of. Yeah. Some stuff I'm like, I could see less of, and it kind of just doesn't have the right pacing to me. That's kind of where I'm feeling it at this episode now with 2 left to go.
Yeah, I think I read a review, I think from Kirsten Howard, I think that's who it was over there in Geek, and I think what she said was really great, is there's a lot of, man, I wish they'd done this, or not a lot of, I wish they had spent more time with this so I could feel this. And I think that's what I'm sensing now. And look, I was giving it the benefit of the doubt for the first few episodes. I'm like, they got to establish the world. I like that there's moving pieces here. Even the last episode I was a little bit on the fence on, but surely Shannon liked a little bit more when we did our review. I was like, all right, I'll give it a little space. But this is the episode where I'm like, look, I don't know what's going on here. Why is this a half-hour episode at this critical juncture in your 6-episode series? And you're asking us to commit and feel things for these characters when you have spent little to no time establishing their relationships, establishing their friendships. The Talos Fury thing aside, we still haven't had a scene with him and Gravik, or multiple scenes with him and Gravik. We haven't gone back in time but once. And the stuff with Priscilla and Fury, we are asking us to buy in. Michael, I think you're 100% right. These actors are doing phenomenal work with almost no foundation establishing their relationships and time spent with their relationships. I think that if we had multiple scenes and time with Fury and Priscilla / Varra up until that moment, we'd have felt that moment deeply, so that when both of them shot their pistols or their guns, we'd be like, oh, fuck, what decision did they make? Instead, we were just like, what? Why? What? And then when they both didn't shoot each other, it's like, well, then what was the whole fucking point of this? So to me, this was left wanting. And then the stuff with Gaia and Talos hasn't been established either. We just met Gaia 4 episodes ago. We've had almost no flashbacks with her and him as Skrulls or anything established in their relationships, anything with her mom. There's been nothing. But yet we're supposed to sit here and buy this park bench scene that there's some real emotion going on between father and daughter and all of this. And it just feels wanting. It's not for the lack of the actors. I think it's for the lack of the construction of the show. It has not been effective at constructing these relationships so that when these moments happen, you feel them deeply and you're even more impressed with what Marvel was able to do here in the series. And one last thing, what you say about WandaVision, you're 100% right. WandaVision took its time with its characters. It still messed up Teyonah Parris. There should have been more time with her. But overall, I think it really hit the mark. So, yeah.
Well, but I think it's important to think about it in terms of look, you don't need 4 hours to fall in love with a character.
I didn't say 4. I said more time.
No, but what I'm saying, I'm saying we're 4 episodes in is what I'm saying. No, yeah, we're 4 episodes in. So what I'm saying is, and this, you give this critique a lot, and I think you're right in what kind of the issue is, but I think your ultimate synopsis, I would push back a little bit on it, because we see movies all the time that are 2 hours long.
You mean my solution?
Your solution. Yeah. We see movies all the time that are 90 minutes, 2 hours, 2
yes.
and a half hours long. And we fall in love with characters and we get relationships and we love it. So the answer is not always, I need more time. The answer is not, Marvel should be doing 12 episodes instead of 6 episodes and do a lot more character work and explain everything in the world. That's not always the solution. I think what the issue is that they kind of, Marvel TV shows fall somewhere in between a movie structure and a TV structure. And when they don't, so some of the ones that I like more, I think Hawkeye feels more like a TV show. There's a bunch of different things that happen. WandaVision, as we said, it feels like there's different things happening, but the Falcon Winter Soldier, Secret Invasion, anything that is sort of hey, here's the issue. Here's what the bad guy's plan is. Now let's have a bunch of episodes where the bad guy's trying to enact their plan, and we have a big third act where we stop that plan. That is more of a 3-act movie structure. And I think when these TV shows split up into sort of that movie structure, you are left with this feeling that you're having, which is the completely valid and correct feeling, I think, which is, I feel, and it's what you said, the reviewer said, I wish I was more invested now, but I'm not. And it's almost like they're trying to fill that extra time with a bunch of extra business. So, you didn't introduce Priscilla until episode 3.
Yeah. Two is when she came.
Yeah, 2. So you're like, okay, so I get this, and then but only in 2 at the very end do you get that they're married.
Right.
So then you only have episode 3 to be like, okay, this is what this is, and then by episode 4 they're shooting each other. So it's you get this thing where you're like, some stuff is really drawn out, like Gravik's plan and what is he doing and whatever. And then some stuff is like, okay, and then here's this, and then here's Gaia. It just feels a little bit uneven. Now, that being said, as opposed to you, I thought the scene of them having this whole talk at the dinner table and not shooting each other was a great scene. Like, I was like, God, this was great. I loved this scene. I thought this was super interesting and cool. Loved the tension of the scene. So there's still stuff that I really like about Secret Invasion. But I will say at this point, I think that my Secret Invasion feelings at the end of the day are going to be, I was left wanting more, or wouldn't if this had been better as a movie is kind of my vibe.
Yeah, I think I'm in the camp, but in a different direction. I think I'm ending up in the same place you are for sure. So let's break this down storylines wise. And there wasn't a lot, so we'll just dive into the storylines right now. Fury and Priscilla, as we mentioned, we flash back to 2012 when the Battle of New York is happening, or just happened, and made the headlines, and we see them having a conversation there and talking about how Fury brought those people together, and then Varra is reading a Raymond Carver book of poetry, and she talks about this particular poem called "Late Fragment," and then she has Fury go back and forth with her with this poem, and it's kind of laying the groundwork for what's going to go up, going to happen later on in their scene. By the way, this poem was also used in the movie Birdman, which maybe some people may not know or may not remember. And he was mounting a play based on the work of Raymond Carver in that movie. So just a little thing. And of course, that
more you know.
Exactly. And that film's about an actor who used to play a superhero, now trying to come back. So interesting. Anyway, we cut to the present, and Varra is going to this meeting with Rhodes, where they're sitting in the church. Rhodes tells her she's got to kill him, kill Fury. She says, well, maybe he'll die from exhaustion. And the whole time, Fury is listening in, which leads to a conversation later where we see Varra and Fury, as we mentioned here, having this back and forth. Varra explains how she became Dr. Priscilla Davis, which I'm sure is not the first time Fury's heard this story, but I liked the way they did the exposition there. Again, my complaints are not the performances. The performances are great, goddammit. And then they have the back and forth here about all of this, about the Skrulls. Clearly, Fury knows about the situation there, and then boom, they recite the poem, snippets of the poem back and forth to each other, and then leads to the shooting, and both of them miss. And Fury says, well, should we? I don't know if this means we should get divorced or we should renew our vows. And then she asks him if he ever loved her, and he says, I guess we'll never know. If he had preferred her as Varra or Priscilla, and then walks off. So, and Fury warns her, you're going to be okay. And she's like, I know what to do. I'll outwit them or whatever. So, all right, Mike, that's the storyline. So Fury and Priscilla, talk to me.
I love, and I hope everybody who's listening to this, who listens to our reviews, loves the difference between John Rocha telling you the plot of something he likes and telling you the plot of something he's less of a fan of. Because there's a very different vibe. And yes, I quite enjoy it. Yeah, look, I think a couple of things. So let's just break it down. First, the opening scene, post-Avengers, their nice conversation, really lovely, good scene work. Yes. Great scene. You kind of are like, okay, we're setting up wherever this is going in real time, cool. And then you have the scene with her and Rhodey, which, given the way they set everything up, not surprising. You're like, all right. I do think with the Rhodey thing, now a lot of people picked up, I did not the first time around, but then I saw on Twitter, when Rhodey and Nick have their scene in the restaurant, which we were all big fans of, he calls him Nick.
Yes.
And not Fury. And a lot of people picked up on that. I didn't. So that's like clue number one. But then, like, by the time you get to the end of last week's episode and Priscilla gets the call and it's Rhodey, and you can clearly hear that it's Rhodey, you're like, okay, Rhodey's a Skrull. So then him sitting down here in the church, you're kind of like, yeah, okay. Like, you get the information that he's like, Gravik wants you to kill Fury, which is new information. But I just feel like this giant, hey, Rhodey's a Skrull.
Yes.
It just kind of feels like they didn't stick that landing in a way that had everybody on Twitter going, oh my God, Rhodey's a Skrull. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, I saw that coming in a couple episodes. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't love that. So, but I like Fury listening in. Again, as a scene, Fury listening in on the two of them, hearing Priscilla say he's past his prime, he's going to die of exhaustion, which is not something you want to hear your wife say, but also you can tell she's kind of trying to be like, hey, why don't we just let him be? Let's not kill him. It was all interesting listening to Fury do all of this. But my other problem, and this is more of like, again, my structural problem with the series is forget the Secret Invasion, forget the Skrulls, forget all of the crazy Marvel action that we want to have. Like, the way this show is set up is Fury is coming back to Earth after 5 years, and he's basically got some PTSD from the blip.
Right.
And everyone is remarking on, you don't have it anymore. You're a shadow of yourself. You're nothing. You're past your prime. And you got this whole thing. And now, like I said, this is the episode where Fury is kind of back on track a little bit. Like he's on top of things with Priscilla. He has a confrontation with her. He has the Rhodey scene. He goes after her to save the president. So he's kind of back, right. But we never had this moment, and maybe it's coming, but we've never had this moment where we saw Fury like deal with his shit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And emotionally, like kind of what you want is Fury is not having his not together. Fury deals with his shit. Fury is a badass again.
That's the arc.
And it feels like we sort of jump to him being now that being said, we're not into the final two. So maybe that's what's coming. So I could next week be like, oh, that was the scene I wanted. But
what about
it just
the first four episodes make you think that's coming? But all right.
We'll see. I'm saying we'll see.
Yes.
That being said, so, you know, following up on the church scene, I think you get really two great scenes.
Yes.
I think that Fury with Priscilla is a lovely scene. Their callback to the poem is lovely. Him just sort of, them just sitting down like this cat and mouse thing. It is that perfect thing because we know that Priscilla's there to kill him. We know that Fury knows that. Yeah. And I think the scene wisely doesn't pussyfoot around it for very long. Like they don't make them have like this long conversation and then reveal it. Like he hits right off the bat, like you're the biggest mistake I made.
Yeah.
And now you're here to kill me. And they both put their pistols out. And then they have this really nice emotional scene where they're both doing amazing work. To John's point, which I do agree with, we don't deserve to care about this relationship nearly as much as we do, as they want us to, because we've barely seen it. But these two actors are going a long way towards making it work. Yeah. And then I love the moment where they both shoot and you have that, okay, who died? I'm assuming Priscilla's dead, not Fury. And then when you see her sitting there, you're like, oh, okay. And the fact that neither one of them could do it.
Yeah.
That despite all of the cloak and dagger and the fact that Priscilla has been lying to him from day one, neither of them were going to do this. But then that bittersweet ending of her being like, would you have loved me as a Skrull? And him being like, hey, liar, guess we'll never know. Like maybe if you had given me a chance, but you've been lying to me since day one, so we'll never know. Like lovely, beautiful scene.
Right. Yeah. Lovely, beautiful scene. But we don't know what we don't know Varra. We don't know Priscilla. We don't know them. And I think that's the number one thing that I have problems with the show now very concretely after this episode is that there is no time being spent in establishing Varra herself individually outside of, oh, she's Talos' lieutenant. Oh, she's Fury's wife. Like there needs to be there should have been time establishing her through the MCU. Through the MCU, we established Talos' wife certainly consistently in a number of situations here. What if we had established that with Varra, spent more time with her, felt this whole situation, felt her love for Fury, so that when these fantastic actors, Charlene Woodard and Samuel L. Jackson, do wonderful work in this scene, we are so invested in what is going to happen because we've seen Varra do incredible things in multiple times along the MCU. So removing that or taking that out of the equation makes it difficult for us to fully dial into the emotional impact of the ending. And it's not because they're doing wonderful work. Them as actors have done all the homework that the show hasn't done for us as viewers. And I think that's the difference. So we know these two seasoned, experienced, fantastic actors are laying in the groundwork of years of a relationship between these two characters, but we haven't seen it. So they're feeling the impact of what happens at the end. We, I think, for the most part, are not because hasn't been enough time established with them. And I think that's the frustrating part of this because the bones here are really fucking great. It's the fleshing out that isn't working out 100% and it feels incomplete. And I don't like that feeling because this has the potential to be so much more.
It does. Well, so here, two things. One, I agree and I disagree. And here's how. I agree. Had Varra been a character in the MCU for the past 5-6 years, and then we got this moment and found out she was a Skrull, that she had been planning to murder Nick the whole time, was really working for Gravik, that would have been great.
Yeah.
You do have to give the writers a little bit of an out though, that you can't go, they don't have a DeLorean. So you get to this point where you're going to do Secret Invasion and they're breaking the story and they're like, we want it to be about Nick Fury and we want it to about, and somebody's like, oh man, what if Nick's been married to a Skrull this whole time? And everyone goes, oh, that's a really great idea. Well, they can't actually go back and say,
Mike, there have been flashbacks throughout this series. So they could have gotten into a DeLorean throughout every episode and established.
No, I'm with you. I'm with. But what I'm saying is,
right, to
what you said, I agree that it would have been great had she actually been there, and we've had years of this relationship. But you can't do that now. Where you're right, and I think this is maybe a mistake that they made, is they kept wanting to give these surprises to us.
Yes.
Oh, look, so and so's a Skrull. Rhodey's a Skrull. Oh, look, Nick's married. So, like I said, we didn't meet Priscilla till the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
Maybe you get in front of this in episode 1. Fury comes back. Talos and Maria Hill find him, and all of a sudden Priscilla's there, and Talos is like, Priscilla, what are you doing here? And then you reveal it off the bat. And the whole idea that Fury's been married this whole time, that Maria Hill's like, whoa, I didn't even know that. What the fuck? Like, and then she's in there earlier, and you can spend some more time with maybe some flashbacks and seeing some things. Like, and so I think that maybe if this whole scene, which is a great scene, is where they were going, maybe they did want to bring her in earlier. So I think, but those are the things, and particularly with something like the Marvel Universe, where you're like, God, really wish we had thought of this 5 years ago. We could have really laid some groundwork for this thing. So you can't always do that. But to your point, what you can do then is say, man, maybe it's important to bring Priscilla in earlier in this series, even if it's just an episode or two, to really give this relationship some more weight.
I think each one of these episodes should have been 55 minutes to an hour. I really do. I think they should have been. There is no excuse for a 32-minute episode in the middle of the series. Like, it just makes no sense unless you've done incredible work in the first 3 episodes, establishing these relationships very firmly and concretely beyond, hey, they're married. Like, that's simple. That's baseline screenwriting 101. It's more like, well, what is the relationship? What has gone on between them? What are the years? Because again, as I said, these 2 actors are bringing all the emotion here, and they've clearly done their homework in their connection.
Oh yeah.
And what have you. So that's the thing. Kyle Bradstreet, damn good writers, singularly in these scenes. It's the overall construction of the series that I think is where he has some failings as a writer overall, constructing and making these things connect. So, all right, let's take a quick break, dude, and let's jump into the Gaia situation. Gaia and Talos and Gravik a little bit. So we see at the beginning of this episode, Michael, she's not dead, as everybody predicted, pretty much. And we see a flashback to her all of a sudden hastily putting the extremist formula inside of herself, and going out, getting shot, and clearly being able to control the extremists, because she didn't heal herself until after Gravik leaves. But then Gaia later meets with Talos and wants to know the plan. Now that her scroll cover has been blown, Talos reveals this plan that is basically, they're going to go to the president and they're going to say, we're going to take down the Skrull resistance. Then we're going to go to the president and say, we did this for you. Give us some amnesty. Which Guy is like, what? Don't you want to live in your own skin? Don't you want to walk your own, be yourself? And Talos says, well, no, it's been a long time. Captain Marvel still hasn't found a planet for us. So we've got to learn to work with the humans, and they're going to accept us because we're going to show them our hearts. And Gaia says, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. We can't keep doing this. It's never going to happen. I see Gravik's point of view. I believed in it because you were my dad, but I've seen Gravik's point of view as more valid. And then she says something about it's disgusting, and then she leaves in disgust and walks away from Talos. So your thoughts here, Mike, on all of this with Gaia putting the extremists, being alive, and then this scene with her on the park bench, which, by the way, mirrored Donald Sutherland and Kevin Costner and JFK on that park bench, which I thought might be an intentional thing. But what'd you think?
Interesting. I didn't pick up on that. But like like her not being dead was not surprising. And again, I mean, that's the problem, is like Maria Hill getting shot in the first episode was like a big, like, oh shit, they killed Maria Hill.
Yeah. Some
of these other things since then, you're kind of like, yeah. So like they shot her and I was like, I don't think she's dead. And so then you get to this episode and you're like, here you go. So it didn't quite, thrill me. But also I think, and again, to this point, it's like, I don't know that any of us are super invested in Gaia.
Isn't that a problem, though? She's the daughter of Talos. This should be huge. And it's Emilia Clarke.
Well, but here's a problem. And again, this is kind of what happens in a writer's room. So
yeah,
what do you think the audience should be caring about? We're 4 hours in.
Yeah.
are we more invested in Talos and Fury? Fury and Priscilla?
Yeah.
Talos and Gaia? Like, who am I really caring about? Because clearly, and I mean, because this isn't just you and me, like I was reading some of the reviews, I was on Twitter, like clearly there's this vibe of like, it's good, it's fine. Like everything that's happening is like interesting and I love this and there's some great scenes and the performances are solid, but I wish that I was more into this.
Yeah.
And there's just not that general feeling. And again, I'm not saying that you have to get rid of some of these relationships, but like, where are you directing the audience? And I think what's happening right now is the audience is kind of being directed all over the place to the point where nothing is really jumping out.
Yeah.
Because kind of everything is happening. So it's, Gaia's cool. Like she's kind of stuck in the middle. She doesn't agree with Gravik. She doesn't agree with her dad. She's trying to figure things out. She took the Super Skrull formula. So now she's got the extremist in her and she can heal. So cool. But not great. Now, that being said, again, as I said at the top of this episode, scene with them on the park bench, great.
Great stuff.
Love this idea of somebody being like, look, this guy is an extremist, but he has a plan. He is moving on his plan, and it's a good plan if you don't mind the fact that he's going to kill a bunch of people and cause like a world war. Like, we will get this planet with Gravik's plan. Yeah. What's your alternative, Dad? My alternative is to ask really nicely if we can stay here. And she's like, no. And that in and of itself mirrors the experience of so many minorities, oppressed people. I mean, there's shades of like Professor X and Magneto in this conversation because it's a conversation that any marginalized or oppressed group has. There is the militant side that says, fuck this, I'm going to fight for our rights. And there's the side that's like, let's work within the system. You got to understand, we're living in a Christian world, in a white world, in a straight world, like take your pick of what it is. And we got to like work within that. You're like, fuck that. Why should we work? And so like watching this scene play out between father and daughter, really great, compelling scene. Yeah, and they both did amazing work. So again, great scene.
Yeah. But you should feel more. And you're right, 100%. I mean, my dad and mom, immigrants to this country, they were very much about learning the English language as soon as possible, integrating themselves into the American culture, the American way of doing things, while still retaining their connections to Bolivia and the South American roots for sure. And they certainly taught that with us. But one of the reasons I don't speak with a Spanish accent is because my parents sat me in front of a TV to watch English language programming from a very, very early age. So I would not have an accent because they suffered criticism and racism because of their accent and their with the Spanish accent speaking English. So they didn't want me to go through that. And so those are those things. But you're right. But I am much more militant than my parents are, as I've been on multiple shows talking about representation, talking about, calling out the white establishment at times, a white power establishment. Not all of them, but obviously some in power do abuse that towards people of color or Black people. And so that's the difference. Yeah. Generationally, right. We see that and more. But then we see like my parents or my mom and my dad, actually, or my dad and I around, but my mom, sometimes there's criticism of the new immigrants that come from different countries because they think the United States should bend over backwards for them. And so there's where the separation is. And that's what's causing a lot of these frictions that we see in our society sometimes, is people not being properly wanting to find that middle ground in between. And certainly, as you said, and I think very well said, Michael, here's Gaia caught between both worlds. Because what is she going to do when she finds out, as we're going to talk about here in a second, that Gravik killed her father after Gravik has already told her that, after Talos has already told her that Gravik killed her mother. So is Gravik going to be the person who essentially orphans Gaia? So it's going to be a real interesting thing to see how she reacts to it in these last two episodes. So you ask who we're supposed to care about. If you're essentially turning her into someone that's going to take on the legacy of Talos, we should be caring about her a lot more,
Well, I don't think that's where she's ending up exactly, but I do think she's ending up somewhere. Well, look, you've got Gravik, who is extreme.
Yes.
And you got Talos, who I think if you watched Captain Marvel, if you like Talos as a character, like a great, lovely character who maybe, his viewpoint, if you want a Skrull homeworld, isn't really a viable option either.
Yeah.
I think Emilia Clarke comes out of this as the super Skrull who's going to lead her people and kind of rule the Skrulls and probably be involved in the Kree-Skrull war that's going to come in down the line in like phase 9 of Marvel.
You're assuming we get to a phase 9.
Well,
all right, let's.
Well, it's a big if.
That's a big if right now. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump into the last storyline here with everything involved with the president right after this.
Rhodey be drinking, Rhodey be drinking. Rhodey got that whiskey on his breath because he be drinking.
Rhodey, you are.
I'm going to make up my own songs. Like, I'm not going to do the McClung, let me hum like the proper score. I'm just making up my own.
Do your thing, man. Of course. Why not? All right, let's move on to this last storyline here. Fury shows up at Rhodes' hotel. Apparently, Rhodes is a female Skrull, it seems like to me, for the way he had the towel wrapped around.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's a female Skrull impersonating Rhodey, which I loved. I loved it. It's
kind of cool.
I already told you I liked when Talos turned into that sexy blonde bombshell on the train and gave himself a little before he got off the train. Like, so that's fair game, man.
I agree with that. Fury brings a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, which is hilarious. And then Fury pretends that he's trying to get his job back here from Rhodes. Rhodes kind of dismisses him. Fury even says that he's going to put like a location marker inside the liquid, joking with Rhodes. And Rhodes thinks he's, or not, Rhodes, kind of in, I don't know what to say, what kind of foreshadowing that he actually did it. But Rhodes thinks he's messing around. He doesn't have the ability to do it and what have you. And then shows him the video of Fury shooting Maria Hill and saying, what are you going to tell people that an alien did it, that a one-eyed alien imitating you did it? So essentially them both understanding that he knows he's a Skrull and he knows that he knows he's a Skrull in that ending here. But then Fury and but we know that he's got that marker that Rhodes just drank inside of him. So Fury and Talos follow Rhodes here to the presidential motorcade. We see the president come off the plane here, meet Rhodes. Rhodes tries to school him on how to deal with the Russians. And the president there, Dermot Mulroney, smells a little bit of liquor on his breath and says, you've been having half a bottle of bourbon there to help you out there, champ. Why don't you stay away and drink some coffee there? And so we see that be a little thing that they have to play off, and he needs a mint or whatever. But we see the motorcade going forward, and then Gravik shows up in helicopters with a bunch of people. They shoot missiles. They attack the president, blow up this motorcade, and then a bunch of people show up there. Then Gravik shows off his Groot power as he jumps out there and somehow still resorts to the simplicity of rifles and helicopters, even though he has all this power. And then Fury and Talos show up, jump out, and apparently these two old men run out there and rescue the president from Gravik. Talos is shot in the shoulder, leading to him like going half Skrull, half human, which I thought was an awesome effect, by the way, as it was happening. And instead of bleeding out, he returns to its normal form here. And I wrote, wouldn't Skrulls be seen all the time if this is what happened to them every time they died? But, they age differently, so maybe a million of them haven't died yet. But then we see this soldier initially want to shoot Talos, but then gets talked out of it by Fury. And then that soldier ends up picking up Talos, and we're like, wait, this is way too easily for him to get over his issues with this guy being a Skrull. Well, we were right, because it's Gravik, which Fury can tell. Fury shoots at Gravik, but Gravik stabs Talos in the heart, and Fury shoots at him again, but the extremist heals him. And then Grabon shows up with his motorcycle. They take off, and Fury is forced to leave with the president, who he has dragged out of there into his car, leaving the Skrull body of Talos there to be buried. That's the storyline with that one, Michael. Your thoughts on this?
Well, to your point about the whole dying Skrulls, I did think, like, even what was it in episode 3 when they took the guy that Olivia Colman had been interrogating, and then they took him out of the car and then shot him in the woods. I didn't say it at the time, but I was like, so they just left a Skrull body in the woods?
Exactly.
There's a Skrull body? So yeah, there's in the Marvel comic book universe, there's probably a couple other things that don't quite pass the squint test, but I'll give him that one. Yeah. I do, and again, it's to your other point that I thought was very funny. It is the nature of they're doing this show on TV, and even though Marvel and Star Wars and Disney and everybody can spend way more money than a lot of other people can, there is still some limit where you're like, you can't do everything. But yes, it would seem that if Gravik can Groot himself I'd be Grooting left and right if I could Groot.
If he could Groot an extremist, nothing can stop him, essentially.
It's like they always say, just Groot it. Just Groot it. Just Groot it. That's what I would. So yes, but cool that he has the Groot powers. Yeah, we saw that kind of coming, but it's kind of cool to see it in action. And I hope that they are saving some of that effects budget for the end so that Gaia and Gravik can Groot all over each other. That is what I want to see. Also, I think Extremis, if I remember Guy Pearce shooting flames out of his mouth, I believe he can do that. So I think in addition to like healing you, I think there's going to be some flame shooting powers maybe too. So we'll see. The Rhodey Fury scene again, as it was literally, it was just I'm going to just keep repeating the same thing. Put two of these actors in a room and let them do their thing, and it's great.
Yes.
I love that we never had the admission of anything. To your point, Johnny, I love that, like, it's like, I know, I know, and I know that you know that I know, and we're going to keep, and you could kind of see those moments. You could see Rhodey kind of sit back and be like, oh, okay, I don't have to play this way anymore. I'm going to go straight to being a dick and blackmailing you because you don't even think that I'm Rhodey, so it doesn't matter. So it was fun to see this sort of pulling back the layers scene. And I think they both did a really, really nice job. And they did kind of end in this, at least what Rhodey thought, a stalemate, which is, hey, I know that you're a Skrull and you're close to the president. Hey, I made a bunch of copies of this tape and nobody's going to fucking believe you. Stalemate. And I also love, I think they probably could have done it a little bit better, but I do love as an idea, the person being like, hey, what do you think I did? Like put a location tracker in the liquor? And then you're like, hey, I put a location tracker in the liquor. Like it's a fun idea that, again, like a lot of things here, I think the idea was good. The execution was okay. Dermot Mulrooney's not a Skrull. I really thought Ritson. I don't think he's I mean, I don't think that the way that Rhodey was talking about Ritson and the fact that Gravik's plan was let's kill Ritson, I don't think they're like, let's sacrifice this dude. Like, it does seem like, you know, as we said, and I think we said this in episode 1, like, we all know that we got President Ross coming in Brave New World. But I guess people are just going to be pissed that Ritson didn't realize he had a bunch of aliens around him. Like, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. But right now, or Ritson doesn't make it through the next 2 episodes. So... still a lot of possibilities, but it does not seem like he is a Skrull.
That's going to be a tough re-election campaign, Michael. That's going to be a tough re-election campaign. You let 1 million Skrulls live here on Earth under your nose? Yeah.
I mean, 1 million Skrulls, you can blame every world leader for that. They're everywhere. It's not just the president's fault. Clearly, I'm working on the president's PR team right now.
You are.
But the whole end sequence, again, and this is just, I kind of was scratching my head at all this, like, it's a big scene. Like, they spent money on this.
Yes.
Like, this is a big action sequence, but you had a bunch of soldiers in kind of the same outfit, same color schemes, whatever, kind of running around, and there was a lot of shooting, and Gravik was doing stuff, and then, like, Talos and Fury are running around, and you got the gist of it. Like, you're like, okay, they're going to try and go get Ritson out of the car, and I agree with you, the whole Talos getting shot, turning back into Skrull partially, like, that was really, really well done. That all looked really, really neat, and Talos really kind of, like, making that sacrifice play to get Ritson out, all really lovely stuff. Like, again, the stuff that happened was good, and I like the concept of all of it, but it just didn't, I was left, I felt like I wanted to be more excited.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I wanted to be like, oh shit, oh no, oh God, and I was kind of like, oh, Talos.
Yeah, exactly. This is what's frustrating. Again, we have had time with Talos and Fury throughout the series, obviously, and their issues with each other. But the way they're resolving these issues are way too quick. I mean, the last episode, you weren't here for our review. Last episode, all he had to do was tell him, hey, thanks for being by my side. Okay, everything's forgiven. Let's be buddies again. And I get that. That happens in long-term friendships for sure, and I get it. But like in this situation, though, we've only had a certain amount of time with Fury and Talos. We need way more time with them. I'm telling you, this series would have benefited from being 8 to 10 episodes long. I think it would have worked really, really well to tell the magnitude of the story that they're trying to tell, so that even when these moments happen, they are really like, oh my God, no, you know, by the end of as you said, you want to feel that more at the end of the episode. And it was all just confusing. And you're going to tell me Fury and Talos, 2 old warriors, are going to be able to run in there and take care of it. It just seemed ridiculous. Superheroes, yes, absolutely. But those two, It just didn't seem to make any kind of sense. And the banging on the window taking forever, just the whole staging of it all. And I agree with you. Like you couldn't tell who was on whose side. Like some people criticize the Michael Bay Transformers films because you can't tell who's the Transformer I'm supposed to be watching or cheering for. It all gets jumbled together. And that's what it felt
I mean,
like.
this was better than that, just to be clear.
All right, fine, fair. But it was still confusing, which makes no sense. And then Fury once again having to leave another soldier in the battle lying there dead, like Maria getting whisked away yet again, leaving Talos there. So just an odd situation of how many people they're just killing off on this show as the end of their episodes. It just seems like it's becoming a cliche within the series itself that somebody dies at the end of each episode, and it's having less and less of an effect as you're watching it because it feels like a cheap ploy now, having it done 3 times in this series.
Well, and again, what I keep coming back to, and I could be totally off on this, I don't know, but like when I think of the things that I love and the movies that I love and the characters that we love, we usually love it because we really know emotionally what's happening. Like Hawkeye, just as an example, again, not perfect. It has its flaws too.
Sure.
But Hawkeye wants to get home to his family for Christmas.
That's the goal.
And this Kate Bishop girl gets in the mix and is so in trouble that he is that father figure is like, fuck, I gotta help her. You got it. Like you understand what's at stake for him. And Kate Bishop understands. You have that great scene where she sort of realizes that his family is really missing him and he's sacrificing that to be with her. And you have these really nice emotional moments. And with this, we have a lot of people talking about Fury. Everyone is saying Fury's weak. He's past his prime. He's never been the same since the blip. But Fury is keeping it all tight. And that's part of his character. But when Fury is in a Captain America movie or an Avengers movie or an Iron Man movie, and he's the one that's keeping it close to the vest, but the other character is the main character, it works. But now that Fury is sort of front and center, it's like, I think, and again, this is where you and I slightly disagree, is that I don't know that we need more time with Fury and Talos. I think we need different time with Fury and Talos. I think some of their conversations could have been better used to get under the hood of what's going on with Fury a little bit. Had again, I'm not saying that I'm right or smarter than those writers or anything, but had you brought in Priscilla earlier and Talos had never known about that, and he's like, what the fuck? I thought we were really good friends. And he was like, look, that's my personal business. I don't talk to it about Cap. I don't talk to Tony, and I don't talk to you about it. Like, this is a me thing. Like, there's ways you could have gotten into the character stuff a little bit more that I think, had they done that a little bit differently, we would have gotten episode 4 and you would be feeling a little bit less, I need more episodes. You'd be like, okay, there was some good meat here. I want more, but this was really satisfying.
Yeah, and we're about to go into episodes 5 and 6, and we still don't know what happened with Gravik and Fury, other than Gravik was clearly disillusioned that Fury took too long to get them a home planet. What is their relationship? Was he the father figure? Was he the father? Did him and Priscilla adopt Gravik, essentially? We don't know. And at this point, we're in the last 2 episodes, and I should have that much more firmly established so that I can buy into what's going to happen here in 5 and 6. And we don't have that. And so to me, I think that's also a colossal failure here. It's very akin to not having more background with Ben Solo and Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy, to have had more scenes with them, more connection of their relationship, see the progression of their relationship as it devolved to what it ended up into. I think would have done those trilogy films a wonder of good for them. But here,
I agree with that.
Here, there's not enough time. We still don't know what the Gravik and Fury issue is beyond. You didn't find me a home for 30 years. Like, there's got to be something more that snapped them. And the fact that he keeps letting Fury live. For fuck's sake, he's Groot. He could have easily shot the root right at Fury and gone through his heart right there and then take off on the motorcycle. It wouldn't have cost him a damn thing. He could have killed the president and Fury right there in that moment and took off on the motorcycle. It wouldn't have cost him anything. So these are the illogical things to me, Mike, that they're asking us to accept in the construct of the series they've presented. Don't get it twisted. I know we've got fantastical shit that happens all the time in the MCU, but in the series they presented, it doesn't make sense in the construct.
Well, look, I think it's not about something being fantastical or not fantastical. And again, I get it. I wish we could see everyone do everything. I get why Gravik isn't grooting all over the place.
Right.
But I think, to your point, what I agree with is that, does Gravik want to keep Fury alive? Kill Fury. Like he's got Rhodey's telling Priscilla that Gravik wants her to kill him.
Right.
But he has this personal thing. Like there's this thing that happens when you're doing this kind of story where you want to keep a lot of stuff close to the vest. You want to like have big reveals. But I think we're reaching the point now where we know, and I think this is part of the we all get this around this point in a lot of series. Either we're super excited about where it's going to end. Oh shit, what's going to happen next? I am so on board. Or by this point in the 6 or 8 or 10 episode seasons that we get, we're like, oh, I guess I want more. Like, this is not enough. We're about to wrap up, and I feel like we're just getting going. And that's kind of how Secret Invasion feels. It feels like it started strong, and you're like, okay, this is interesting, and then it never really hit its stride.
Yeah, and I wonder if Skrull Rhodes, and I should ask you this before we wrap up here in a second, but
Scrodes.
Scrodes. Is Skrulls operating on his own in this, or her own in this situation? Because Gravik, as you said, it may be that Gravik wants to keep him alive. And certainly 2 episodes ago, Gravik said, you don't give the man what he wants, you let him suffer. So Gravik clearly wants to keep Fury alive, it seems like. So why does Rhodes what does Scrodes want to kill Fury? What is the intention? Is she, as a Skrull, going against Gravik? What is the situation here? With that, so there is, again, we don't know what the purposes of everybody is. They're just kind of slamming into themselves, and it's not clear.
Probably what we're gonna hear is Gravik is gonna say, "I didn't want you to die in the field like a hero. I wanted the person that you loved the most to shoot you, and that's why I wanted her to do it." And you'll be like, "Yeah, okay, cool.
You might be right.
Yeah, all right. Sure.
Yeah." So, final question. When do you think Rhodes became a Skrull? Is it after Endgame? Was it before he had the conversation with Sam in Falcon and Winter Soldier, or after the conversation with Sam and Winter Soldier? When did this happen?
I think Iron Man 2. Nobody realized it was Terrence Howard. It was Terrence Howard, and all of a sudden it was Don Cheadle, and nobody noticed. But like, guys, it's Don Cheadle. He's a Skrull.
Son of a bitch. If that's the decision they make, I would appreciate the guts of that decision, because it would make so much meta and actual sense. And he could be a Skrull who was all for helping the humans and have the power.
Well, he clearly is not that.
So
I think they're going to. It's not. They're not going to pull a. They're not going to say that this person that is the villain Skrull, who's clearly an asshole, like helped the Avengers stop Thanos. Like, they're not going to take that away from Rhodey. Like, it's going to be sometime after, like, now maybe they're going to say, but I think you just run into those problems too. Like, I don't think we really want the Rhodey that's in Falcon and Winter Soldier for 3 minutes to be that Skrull.
Right.
Even though, even though we do want, what's her face to be a Skrull, and it looks like she's not gonna be.
Valentina. Yeah.
No. Not her. Why am I blanking?
Who?
Peggy's niece.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. I know. Sharon, right? Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter. Like, I'm still waiting for Sharon Carter to show up in this series and reveal she's a Skrull, because the way she acted in Falcon and Winter Soldier was so damn stupid. And I'm like, man, are they not gonna give me that? I mean, yeah, and what's up with Martin Freeman? Like, what's up? Where is there's a lot of like they did these things. You're like, and where does Fury end up at the end of this to get him back up onto Saber for the Marvels in November, or does the Marvels take place before all this?
Yeah, they will not tell you. They won't tell you when the Marvels takes place. No one wants to say, which I think is so weird. Yeah.
So it's all a little, as we like to say in the biz, hinky. It's a little hinky.
Yeah, it's a shame, man. I mean, the last 2 phases, man, it's not going well. It's not going well overall, man. It's not going great, but it's not going terribly. It's just kind of in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I was flying back from the East Coast, and I was on the plane, and I just put on Quantum Mania for like an hour. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just like watch an hour of it. And you know, there are things that like there's Rise of Skywalkers.
Sure.
There are Rise of Skywalkers that I just think are almost like unforgivably horrible. And I don't think that Marvel has reached that point. Like, I think that there's just the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Phase 4 and Phase 5 as a whole, which has some highs and some lows and a lot of mids, is just sort of like, eh. But I mean, and Shannon has said this. He said this on the shows, on our reviews, but he's also said this when we've just been chatting. It's like, there's just this idea. You think about where we were at the end of Phase 3. You think about that sort of Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame kind of run into Spider-Man Far From Home, and you're just kind of like, God, that was a great time. We gonna see that again? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, you know, and so for all the praise we gave Kevin, you have to also, you know, kind of give him some dings on this, because this has been and the arguments that have come up a lot, Mike, and I know we got to wrap up, is like he might have legitimately been stretched too thin in the end. He might doing all these extra things eventually might, and they can spread them out all they want. They're still not having the effect that people would like. So we'll see down the road what happens in these next two episodes as we wrap up our review here and find out what's going to happen in Secret Invasion. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review here for episode 4, Beloved of Secret Invasion. Thank you all so much for joining us, whether you're on camera or listening to us. Michael, what do we have to tell them? Well, listen, whether you love it, hate it, like it, wherever you're at, we hope you enjoy hearing these conversations, because we sure love talking about it. When we love it, don't love it, it's always a fun conversation, and you always find stuff to like. You always find stuff you wish was a little bit better. But here is what you can do if you like us. You can smash that like button below. You can subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. You can leave your comments below. What do you think is going on? Are you loving Secret Invasion? Are we way off? Are you with us on this? Like, what do you think below? Let us know. Agree, disagree, argue, debate. Let us know in the comments below. If you are listening to us on the podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and some comments so we go up in the rankings. And if you would like to follow us, you can do so on Twitter at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. You can follow John at The Rocha Says. You can follow me at MKToon. And while you are doing that, the best thing that you can do for us is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Bang, there you go. Thank you so much, Mike. That was great. Yeah, and look, whatever you feel about the show, we are not going to tell you to like or not like the show. Watch it, feel the way you feel. Feel free to comment down below and give us your points of views. We like that. Open discussion is always fun with the Geek Buddies. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new show or another review here on the
Geek
Buddies.